Disclaimer. Do not send any type of harassment or negativity towards the creators that I review. This includes hateful comments, mass paying the creators, dislike spamming, and toxic videos about them. This video is for entertainment purposes, and even then, what I say could be wrong, so please take my videos with a grain of salt. Enjoy! We're back to the classics. Anyways, we're going to be reviewing this paleontology video that I randomly found. Anyways, I'm just gonna...
Imagine this. Hollywood movies often exaggerate things for dramatic effect. When it comes to dinosaurs,
yeah, but, you know, power scalers use them as feats. Later on, we're going to be creating Rexy versus Sue, but from the realism and power scaling perspectives.
When it comes to dinosaurs, we've seen them made bigger, stronger, and scarier than they actually were. But here's the twist. There's one dinosaur that was actually more terrifying in real life than it was in the movies. It was one of the first kings of the Jurassic.
One of the first kings of the Jurassic? Are you talking about Allosaurus? Are you talking about Stegosaurus? Neither of them could kill a T-Rex. Not really, but like, neither of them could defeat a T-Rex more times.
And the largest predator in its ecosystem at its peak.
Saurophagidax? Or now it's just called Allosaurus adax.
This dinosaur wasn't just a myth made scarier by the big screen. It was a true force of nature. Meet the Dilophosaurus.
So according to this guy, the Dilophosaurus was... Okay, so according to this guy, the Ceratosaurus, the Allosaurus, not even the freaking Torosaurus, they don't exist. There really is nothing to say about this segment. It's just completely and utterly stupid, man.
The real-life terror that even movies couldn't make more fearsome.
But the movies, Dilophosaurus could spit acid.
Worldwide recognition came for the Dilophosaurus after its appearance in the iconic Jurassic Park.
And even then, it's just stupidly inaccurate.
However, it had been known to paleontologists for over 80 years prior to that, with the first remains being discovered back in 1940. 3 specimens of varying sizes were found in the early Jurassic period Kayenta Formation of northern Arizona. This discovery was remarkable because it included a nearly complete individual, making it one of the best preserved theropods of its time. However, at that point in paleontology, things were still in their infancy.
Of course. So you can't really expect stuff to be perfect. Obviously. Oh my god, I'm speaking the obvious once again.
And many
I probably should make less of this video. I don't really know for certain.
Theropods were misclassified, including the Dilophosaurus itself. Dilophosaurus was initially believed to be a new species of Megalosaurus.
New species of Megalosaurus. Huh. Okay. Yeah, this paleontology video is just not good at all. Glad I found this one.
Another.
Don't send hate towards the creator, by the way. It's just for funsies. I already had a disclaimer, so.
Their Jurassic theropod. This classification stuck for 2 decades, and the idea went unchallenged until another specimen was found in the same area as the first 3, which was in even better condition. The skull, in particular, was more complete, and it revealed the presence of a crest that had been previously overlooked. The crest was located to the right of the midline, indicating that in life, this dinosaur actually had 2 distinct crests.
But then you're just showing this. Oh man. You kidding me, man? Ugh. This is not good.
This discovery
You're just showing not 2 crests.
Actually had 2 distinct crests.
It's just given that this channel is small, I'm willing to bet it's an AI generated video. But I could be completely wrong. I can't really jump into conclusions.
Discovery made it clear that this theropod was no Megalosaurus, and as a result, it was aptly renamed Dilophosaurus, meaning the two-crested lizard, and was placed into a new family named after it, the Dilophosauridae, which contains just one other member, Dracoinator. Not only was this new find significant because of its anatomical details, but it also opened doors for a better understanding of the diversity within early Jurassic theropods. The discovery of a newer Dilophosaurus specimen led to the identification of its crests. This specimen, the largest individual ever found, remains the largest to date. It is believed to have been a fully matured adult that measured 7 meters, 23 feet, from snout to tail, making it roughly the same length as the Catosaurus. Despite having the same length, the Dilophosaurus sported a more hollow skeleton and an agile build, which made it lighter.
Okay. Why is this guy showing a bear now? When we were talking about the Dilophosaurus, supposedly?
Paleontologists estimate it weighed about 400 kilograms, 8...
What? 400 kilograms. Yeah, this is a text-to-speech one. Man. Not very good.
80 Saurus ibis, comparable to the weight of a brown bear. While this doesn't make the Dilophosaurus as large as some later theropods, it still made it the largest known North American land animal during the early Jurassic. It was many times larger than the Dilophosaurus seen in Jurassic Park movies, which were downsized to avoid confusion with the Velociraptor. Unfortunately, this has led many to assume that the Dilophosaurus was a smaller predator.
Well, because it is. It's not very big.
But in reality, it was the biggest animal of its time. A peculiar change made in the iconic Jurassic Park franchise was the addition of a neck frill, which was possibly inspired by the modern-day frilled lizard. This lizard uses its...
But unfortunately, this is just one of those cases where it's Jurassic Park Hollywood stuff, which isn't very accurate.
This lizard uses its distinctive display to scare and ward off various predators. While a frill would admittedly be interesting, the real Dilophosaurus likely didn't possess one.
Yeah, the real Dilophosaurus did not possess.
However, it still had, as mentioned, the two prominent crests that served the Dilophosaurus in their own ways. These relatively large crests were composed of very thin bones running from its snout to behind its eye socket. In life, it's thought there would have been a layer of keratin as well, meaning paleontologists aren't entirely sure what the true shape of these crests were. Originally, it was thought these crests were used for thermoregulation due to their size and the hot environment the Dilophosaurus inhabited.
This supposedly hot environment is around 20-something degrees Celsius, 22 or so. Which is more so in the warmer side.
However,
although I wouldn't call that hot.
Now most agree that these crests' true purpose was likely for individual recognition or sexual selection.
Display. Which, this is basically just a fancy way of saying, this is for display.
As the crests appear to have been highly varied in appearance and size between each individual Dilophosaurus. For some time, the idea that the Dilophosaurus used its crests as a battering ram against prey and competitors was also considered, but this conjecture is now widely unsupported, as the crests were extremely fragile in nature. Dilophosaurus had an array of other features that allowed it to deal with prey and competitors, with perhaps the most important weapon being its vicious jaws.
Well, vicious jaws... Those jaws are quite vicious, I'll admit it. But they are basically nothing compared to later dinosaurs that appeared later. For example, the Allosaurus.
The jaw, and subsequently the skull, were...
It's supposedly the one dinosaur that could kill a T-Rex. Dilophosaurus could not kill a T-Rex. Guys, this is not a very... This is quite misleading.
Both proportionally large for its body, sometimes accounting for 10% of its entire length. This allowed enough space for its roughly 30 teeth, which were all long, curved, thin, and compressed sideways. Additionally, each tooth possessed numerous serrations, with sometimes over 70 serrations split between the front and back of the tooth. These serrations allowed the Dilophosaurus to easily cut through flesh.
The one dinosaur that could kill a T-Rex once again. Are you forgetting about those herbivores in T-Rex's environment?
Incurring rapid blood loss and death to the unfortunate animals it preyed upon. The question of what animals were its victims.
So apparently its bleeding stuff is a justification for it to even stand a chance against the T-Rex.
Has been up
Really cool, guys.
for debate for a long time. One reason for this is its unique gap located at the front of its skull, which made
That's not a Dilophosaurus, and that's not a Dilophosaurus.
paleontologists initially believe that the Dilophosaurus had a weakly built skull that would crack under high pressure. This led to the idea that it was a scavenger that used a weak bite to carefully dissect carrion, or would only hunt small creatures in its habitat. The belief that Dilophosaurus was a weak biter also helped create the later notion that it was actually a fish hunter. Other evidence supporting the idea that it specialized in fish included its teeth forming an interlocking rosette shape towards the end of the jaws, similar to the pattern seen in spinosaurs, which are known to prey on fish, as well as the gharial, a living crocodilian known to eat the most fish out of any croc. However, despite all the evidence, the belief that the Dilophosaurus specialized in fish and had a weak bite is now considered likely debunked.
It's more likely that Dilophosaurus, like Ceratosaurus, would have been a generalist predator. Just eating anything, really.
New research.
You know, there's a reason why Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus, they managed to coexist with each other peacefully. It's because they serve different niches.
Debunked. New research has shown that the gap, which was once thought to be weak, was actually immobile and extremely robust in life, allowing the Dilophosaurus to endure high forces while clamping down into struggling prey. Its size was another indication that it hunted larger terrestrial animals, as it was by far the largest predator around at the time, leading paleontologists to suspect that it grew larger than others as an adaptation specifically designed for killing big animals. Evidence of this comes from the coexisting Saussure. This was a basal sauropod that was about half the size of the Dilophosaurus.
What? But then you're showing us a real sauropod? Hold on. Let me search up for this. The only thing I could find is Saurosaurus, a sauropodomorph. That's it.
This was a basal sauropod that was about half the size of the Dilophosaurus and has shown signs of being preyed upon by this vicious theropod. Specifically, the holotype, discovered in 2018, bore various bite marks all across the body that match those of the Dilophosaurus and were far too large to have come from any other known predator in the area. Because Saussure was one of the biggest animals in its environment.
Saussure? Okay. This is probably a terrible way to pronounce a Saurosaurus. So I'll just assume this is just a Saurosaurus.
Paleontologists now believe that this nightmare was an expert at taking down large animals. However, it still would have likely preyed upon smaller creatures and fish if the chance arose, which means absolutely nothing was safe. And its bite wasn't the only weapon it used. The Dilophosaurus had more than just its jaws as a weapon to be feared. Its arms were equally deadly. Studies on its arms revealed they were not only long but surprisingly strong, with deep pits on the bones for muscle and ligament attachment. This allowed the Dilophosaurus to have powerful and flexible arms, equipped with 3 well-developed claws.
Still doesn't mean that they could just defeat a T-Rex. How could Dilophosaurus kill a T-Rex? Just clone it or something? And then just put in like 1,000 of these. Yeah, 1,000 is overkill. Maybe like 100 is enough.
The first one being significantly larger than the other 2. These claws, combined with its strength, enabled the Dilophosaurus to grab and hold on to its prey, preventing them from escaping.
And we're shown what seems to be a wolf or a coyote.
It could also inflict further damage by slashing with these claws.
These two... This is just a sword fight between 2 soldiers. I don't know what this is trying to convey here. I mean, the other footages are okay, I'll leave them alone, but this is just extremely laughable in a paleontology video.
Slashing with these claws. This combination of powerful jaws and strong, flexible arms made the Dilophosaurus a formidable predator during the early Jurassic, and anyone who encountered it would have had very little chance of escaping its grasp. The Dilophosaurus's toolkit doesn't end with its claws. It also had another foolproof way of capturing prey. Despite being on the heavier side, this technique didn't involve spitting venom to blind its prey.
Not like anyone with the brain would actually believe in this Jurassic Park perk.
As seen in Jurassic Park. Instead, it was simply a speed demon, capable of running down its prey. Instead, it was simply a speed demon.
Yeah, this is definitely an AI-generated clip. So I'm more than inclined to believe that now I'm more convinced that this is an AI-generated video.
Capable of running down its prey. The agility of this theropod was demonstrated by its highly developed legs, lighter frame, and the presence of fleshy air sacs. These air sacs grew in its vertebrae, creating unidirectional breathing, a trait seen in birds and crocodiles. This suggests that the Dilophosaurus likely had a high metabolic rate and a high level of activity, indicating that it was a swift and efficient hunter. Its agility, combined with its powerful bite, made it a formidable predator. Jaws and size alone were not enough to completely dominate its ecosystem. There's also a chance that the Dilophosaurus was a pack hunter.
What? Okay. But, to be fair though, Dilophosaurus was the apex predator of its environment. And apex predators are more likely to hunt in packs than non-apex predators. So basically, cheetahs, coyotes, they are more solitary. Meanwhile, lions, wolves, hyenas,
was a pack hunter.
Orcas.
This idea comes from the original find of its bones, as the 3 specimens
I could be very wrong about the coyotes and cheetahs though. So let me know if I'm wrong.
Were found right next to each other, leading some to believe they lived and hunted in packs. However, if this was the case, paleontologists think that 3 individuals may have been the limit. This is because the Dilophosaurus was the giant of its homeland, and sustaining more than 3 individuals in the same area would have been difficult, even with all the advantages this theropod had. For the Dilophosaurus, life as a king was not an easy one. It turns out that Dilophosaurus are notorious for bearing signs of wounds and disease. In fact, the holotype is known for signs of wounds and disease.
Like, basically any other creature for that matter. A lot of creatures that are found, no matter what sort of timeline they were in, they died of infections. They've died of diseases, wounds, and all that. So, you can't really say that Dilophosaurus is special because other creatures already had.
In fact, the holotype is known for having the highest number of damaged bones out of any theropod, with 8 bones affected. The theropod with the next highest number of damaged bones has only 4. The injuries seen in this Dilophosaurus were concentrated in its arms, involving bony tumors, stress fractures, torsions, and deformities.
Bony tumors and all that. Some broken bones that are not fixed. And they would lead to weakness and then blood supply is cut.
These injuries were disabling, as reconstructions have shown that this individual would not have been able to properly use one of its arms and hands, forcing it to rely more heavily on the other. It's not exactly known how the Dilophosaurus obtained all these injuries, but some speculate that it may have been due to failed hunts or fights with competitors.
This is just a boxing match in a paleontology video. How can an actual human place a boxing match gif in a paleontology video?
What's interesting is that despite many Dilophosaurus having banged up arms, a study of over 60 individuals found no fractures on their legs and feet, which confirms just how useful their arms were as weapons and tools. Additionally, all paleontologists agree that the number of wounds found across all specimens shows that this was one tough animal with likely a seriously high pain tolerance. And this isn't all that surprising, as it lived during a time when Earth was no joke, specifically during the insert time period.
Insert time period? Didn't you say that the Earth lived... Okay, the Dilophosaurus lived in the early Jurassic? You literally just said it like a couple minutes ago.
Fossil dating shows that the Dilophosaurus existed roughly 183 million years ago during the early Jurassic in what is now North America.
That is the time when the Dilophosaurus went extinct. More specifically, it lived around 195.2 to 183.7 million years ago.
At the time, both the supercontinent Pangaea and the superocean Panthalassa were still around, and the Earth was still recovering from the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. This meant there wasn't that much life around. This certainly wasn't helped by the environment, as the Earth was still relatively hot. The Dilophosaurus's environment seems to have been particularly grueling, characterized by extreme dry seasons during which dunes would migrate in and out of its habitat. However, during that era, the presence of the large prehistoric lake, Lake Dixie, would have provided a source of relief and a food supply during these extreme dry seasons. Wet seasons occurred as well, and during those times, rivers and streams would come alive, creating habitats akin to desert oases seen today.
Still facts that have nothing to do with how Dilophosaurus could kill a T-Rex. Oh, man. I don't know why this video had to exist when it's clearly just misleading. At this point, just change the title a bit and everything would be fine. The one dinosaur that could... I don't know at this point. But not kill a T-Rex.
Despite its harsh environment and the fairly recent extinction event, the Dilophosaurus was by no means alone, and it was even joined by other dinosaurs such as the previously mentioned Chorus.
You can't keep getting away with it! You can't keep getting away with it!
And of course, this dude just had to butcher Sarosaurus pronunciations even more. At this point, it's just scary tourist level amount of pronunciation.
As well as others including Meganosaurus, Caenator, and
What? Hold on. Let's try and let's replay this.
Others including Meganosaurus, Caenator.
Carinator? By the way, the Megalosaurus or Megalosaurus wasn't the Megalosaurus. Didn't the Megalosaurus live in a completely different time period from the Dilophosaurus? As well as the Carnotaurus too. Look at this. Oh my good god. What even is this video talking about at this point? There's really nothing.
and Scutosaurus.
Scutosaurus live at the freaking Permian too.
Non-dinosaurs were also present and were represented by various hybodont sharks, bony fish, lungfish, lizards, and salamanders. Other animals also included the Procellarius, Yoquilia, Cayena, Kelis, the crocodilomorphs, Calcus and Sucus, as well as the pterosaur Ramian. Meanwhile, synapsids in the area came in the form of Denodon, Cyantheum, and Oligochius. Even early mammals called these lands home, as showcased by the tiny Deinotherium. Despite the remarkable amount of life, showcased by the tiny Deinotherium.
Deinotherium, what? Are you talking about that proboscidean that is... What is this now? Deinotherium is in like the Cenozoic. Oh my good god.
Despite the remarkable amount of life, none held a candle to the Dilophosaurus's size or ferocity,
At least in the early Jurassic.
which allowed it to be the undisputed apex predator of early Jurassic North America. With its true legacy being much greater than that seen in Hollywood, we can only hope that one day we will be able to witness Dilophosaurus's true glory on the big screen. Dilophosaurus isn't the only animal that has a different modern legacy compared to the past. If you're interested in seeing other examples of animals that had very different legacies than what we think of today, check out my last video, where I talk about 7 animals that were once absolute giants in their evolutionary history, but we now often view them as small and docile. Before I end this video, I have a question for you. What dinosaur do you think could have been a bigger threat to the T-Rex than any we've discussed today?
Literally anything. Like, even the freaking Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus. Like, they would get absolutely destroyed by the T-Rex, but they ironically still stand a better chance against the T-Rex than a Dilophosaurus could ever dream of. It's just absolutely ironic, guys. But basically just tons of dinosaurs. Tons of dinosaurs are a bigger threat to the T-Rex than the Dilophosaurus. At this point, just... This is briefly mentioning T-Rex, and there's really nothing much to say about this video other than the fact that A, it's clickbait, and B, it's just a fact-yapping mess. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all in the next one.